The automatic doors of the urgent care clinic slid open with a soft hiss, but everything inside me felt loud. My roommate could barely keep her balance as I helped her across the waiting room, her face pale, her breathing uneven, and her hands trembling in mine. I kept telling myself it was probably exhaustion, maybe dehydration, maybe something simple. Then the receptionist handed her a clipboard. She filled it out slowly while I stood a few feet away, trying not to panic. A moment later she pushed the form back across the counter, and as it turned slightly toward me, one line caught my eye. Under the space labeled relationship, she hadn't written roommate. She had written something that stopped my heart and changed everything I thought I knew about the last 3 years of our lives. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that the smallest acts of love can change a life forever, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Tales of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Her name was Nora, and mine was Elias. We had become roommates almost by accident after both answering the same apartment listing during one of the hardest years of our lives. We were strangers with different dreams, different habits, and different reasons for needing a cheap place to live. I had recently lost my father and was trying to rebuild my life while working long hours as a mechanic. She had moved to the city for a new teaching job after caring for her grandmother until the very end. We agreed to split the rent, divide the chores, and stay out of each other's personal lives. It sounded simple. Life, however, had other plans. Months slowly became years. We learned each other's routines without even trying. She always left fresh coffee on the counter before leaving for school, even on mornings when she barely had time herself. I quietly repaired broken things around the apartment before she noticed them. We celebrated birthdays with homemade dinners because neither of us could afford expensive gifts. We sat on the tiny balcony after difficult days, watching the afternoon sunlight fade across the buildings while saying almost nothing. Somehow silence became our language. We never called it friendship because it had quietly become something much deeper than either of us was willing to admit. Still, fear has a strange way of disguising itself as comfort. I convinced myself she deserved someone more successful, someone with a polished career and a bigger future. She never spoke about dating anyone seriously, and I never asked. It felt safer to protect what we already had than risk losing it by speaking the truth. Looking back now, I realize that some of life's greatest regrets are created by words left unspoken. That morning had started like any other. The sunlight filled the kitchen as Nora laughed about one of her students who insisted clouds were giant floating sheep. Halfway through breakfast, her smile disappeared. She grabbed the edge of the table as dizziness overtook her. Within seconds she nearly collapsed. I caught her before she hit the floor and rushed her into my truck without thinking twice. Every red light felt endless. Every minute stretched into an hour. Inside the clinic, nurses quickly led her away for initial tests. I remained in the waiting room, staring at the floor while my imagination created 1,000 terrible possibilities. Then I remembered the registration form. My eyes replayed that single line again and again. Under relationship she had written, the person I love but have never been brave enough to tell. I wasn't even sure if I had truly seen it. Maybe stress had made me imagine the words. But when a nurse approached asking me to confirm emergency contact information, she smiled gently and mentioned that Nora had listed me as the most important person in her life. My chest tightened. For years I had hidden my feelings because I believed they would only complicate our friendship. Now I wondered how many moments we had both wasted pretending not to care. The doctor eventually emerged with reassuring news. Nora had experienced severe exhaustion combined with dehydration after weeks of pushing herself too hard. There were additional tests to complete, but she was expected to recover fully with proper rest. Relief washed over me so powerfully that my knees nearly gave out. I hadn't realized how terrified I had been until that moment. When she was finally discharged later that afternoon, we walked outside beneath a bright blue sky. The world looked ordinary again, yet nothing inside me was the same. I helped her into the truck, and during the quiet drive home I realized life had offered me a rare gift. Some people never get a second chance after almost losing someone they love. I still had mine. The following days became slower. She was ordered to rest, so I handled the grocery shopping, cooked meals that were probably too simple, and made sure she drank enough water. She apologized for being a burden almost every day, but caring for her never felt like an obligation. It felt like finally becoming honest through actions even before finding the courage for words. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, I found a small notebook tucked beneath the couch. I wasn't looking for secrets, but it slipped open when I picked it up. Before I closed it, one sentence written across the page caught my attention. It simply read that sometimes the greatest love stories are hidden inside ordinary apartments where two frightened people spend years pretending friendship is enough. I carefully closed the notebook without reading another word. I didn't need to. I already understood. That evening I prepared dinner, opened every window, and let the warm daylight fill the apartment we had shared for so long. Instead of hiding behind fear, I finally told her everything that had lived silently inside my heart since the first year we met. I admitted how every ordinary day had become extraordinary because she was part of it. I confessed that losing her, even for a few terrifying hours, had shown me that love delayed is sometimes love almost lost. Her eyes filled with tears before a smile slowly replaced them. She admitted she had written those words on the clinic form because she honestly believed something serious might happen that day. If those were the last papers she ever completed, she wanted at least one honest sentence to exist somewhere in the world. She never expected me to see it. Fate simply refused to let either of us keep hiding. From that day forward, our apartment changed in the smallest but most meaningful ways. Morning coffee became shared breakfasts instead of rushed routines. The balcony became our favorite place to dream about the future instead of escaping the past. We still laughed over burnt dinners and argued about whose turn it was to wash dishes, but every ordinary moment carried a quiet gratitude neither of us had known before. Love had not appeared suddenly that afternoon in urgent care. It had been growing patiently through thousands of unnoticed acts of kindness until one frightening day finally gave it permission to be seen. If this story has touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who still believes in second chances, subscribe to Tales of Kindness, and let us know in the comments what moment moved you the most. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reminds others that hope is never as far away as it seems. Special request, please comment with the words, "Love finds courage," if you believe the most beautiful relationships are built on kindness, patience, and honest hearts. Sometimes life doesn't reveal love during perfect sunsets or grand celebrations. Sometimes it reveals it under the harsh lights of an urgent care clinic, on a simple form, in a single handwritten sentence that changes everything. And perhaps the greatest miracle isn't surviving the frightening moments at all. Perhaps it's finally finding the courage to stop hiding from the people who have quietly become home all along.